Okay. Can everyone see my slide? Wait, nope, you're not gonna be able to see them. Sorry. Okay. Now, can everyone see our the slides?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So good morning and welcome to the CDTC Active Transportation Advisory Committee meeting. We have a lot on our agenda today, but first I'm going to go through, we'll do introductions. I'll read off who I see on the Zoom. If I miss you, please let me know. So I have John Scavo, John Mitchell, Ed Brennan, Ethan Warren, Valerie Dean, Alexandra Barr, Peter Thomas, Rogerio Rodriguez, and Lindsay Brad. And then we'll go around the conference room here at CDTC and everyone can introduce themselves. Start with Rima.
Rima Shiniama, Transportation Planner at CDTC.
Dave Wooden, Town of Waterford Planning.
Ivan. Evan, do you want to?
Ivan Vamos, NYBC.
Jesse Vogel, Transportation Planner at Great Manning.
Linda Vonderhood, Planning Planner.
Meg Fennell, New York State DOT.
Carrie Ward, CDTC.
Rebecca Odell, CDTC. Elena Levicki, CDTC.
All right. And I am Jen Sponis from CDTC. So we are going to switch over to the featured presentation today on the Troy Federal Street Corridor Study. If I can. And we have Jesse Vogel from Great Manning who's gonna present. So I'm gonna turn it over to Jesse.
Great, thank you. Karen, did you want to say anything before we get started? So hi, I'm Jesse Vogel. Lead planner at Great Manning for the Federal Street Corridor Study, and happy to be here to present this to the committee. Just jumping into it, what we're looking at is Federal Street. This is in the city of Troy, from the Green Island Bridge up to 6th Avenue. You can see the Federal Street corridor itself highlighted in red, as well as some of the turnaround movements on the River Street intersection closer to the river over there. And then also taking a look at some of the adjacent areas to make sure that any changes to the Federal Street corridor don't have spillover effects. And so going to start is to kind of what spurred this study. We did take a look at some previous studies. A lot of work has been going on in the city of Troy. A couple of things that particularly touch on the study area. One is a path connection to the Empire State Trail that is currently in design on the Green Island Bridge. You can see it shown there on the green arrow. And because that's an imminent project that's going to happen, it's going to result in some changes to the Federal Street and River Street intersection. And so there's an opportunity to consider the changes to the bridge and how it'll impact the rest of the corridor and potentially improve the corridor in the process. Another concept that came about through some previous planning studies was the Green Island Gateway, which you can see here. This shows a roundabout with medians at the Federal Street and River Street intersection as a way to kind of calm traffic and really emphasize to motorists during the city environment. And so building on those concepts, the city wanted to take a look at a boulevard bookended by roundabouts. And so working with the city and the study advisory committee, we developed the following project need and objective statements. So the project need is to provide multimodal infrastructure for your users and barriers for transportation disadvantaged populations. There's a need to improve the bicycle and pedestrian connections between downtown Troy, across and along Federal Street, as well as to the Empire State Trail. It's on the opposite side of the Hudson River. Currently Federal Street is a wide 4-lane, almost 5-lane depending affair. There's between pedestrians and the roadway and very auto-centric, no accommodations for other modes. And so with the recent residential development, as well as the changes in land use with Empire State Trail, there really is a need to take a better look at bike and ped connections. So based on that need, we developed the purpose statement, which is to calm traffic, improve pedestrian connectivity and access management, also providing those important bicycle connections within the city and to the Empire State Trail. And the last piece is the project objectives. The objectives that were established were to redesign Federal Street as a complete street, assessing that boulevard bookended by roundabouts that I mentioned earlier, including the River Street intersection as well as the 6th Avenue intersection, and providing bicycle and pedestrian access to the Empire State Trail, and also improving air quality by reducing vehicle emissions and idling. That's one of the benefits that roundabouts can provide. And I'll just note that it's following the purpose, need, and objective statement, because the way the report is formatted, it will be following DOT's project scoping report, which is the first chapter of a further design report. So really with the goal of getting these plans implemented.
Yeah.
So here we can see an existing cross section on Federal Street. It's a wide road, 5 lanes, about 65 feet wide where we're looking currently. There's no marked pedestrian crosswalk, and I'll go back. You can see there is a pedestrian there that is crossing over at 5th Avenue. And then also the sidewalk is right up against the road. There's really no buffer. So there's an opportunity there for the pedestrian standpoint to better connect the downtown neighborhood to the south as well as the neighborhoods to the north. You can see the existing bicycle network. This is the line where it's shown is the bicycle plan, Troy's bicycle plan, which shows Federal Street as a primary bikeway, some neighborhood bikeways in downtown Troy, but also River Street and 6th Avenue as primary bike connections. Mentioned the proposed trail on the Green Island Bridge, which is a high level bicycle accommodation. Also, the Hoosick Hillside study identified a 2-way cycle track on 6th Avenue.
Are you logging into the active transportation?
That's shown there. Talks with the city showed a desire to extend that bicycle treatment further south. There's no specific plans for it yet, but again, that would carry a higher level bicycle accommodation all along 6th Avenue. And that leaves the Federal Street study area as a network gap. So a real opportunity for this study to fill that gap, provide bicycle accommodations. We went to the public with an initial concept of the boulevard bookended by roundabouts. We went first to a neighborhood meeting with the residents just north of Federal Street. It was fairly well attended. Also had an online public workshop that was following the Join at Your Own Pace presentation and included a pre-recorded presentation as well as an online survey. We had over 345 visitors to the site and received 86 survey responses to get their input on the project objectives, needs, their priorities, and what they would like to see. And so the majority of those that filled out the survey really supported the draft purpose, needs, and goals statement. And the biggest priority was improving bicycle and pedestrian space and comfort. One of the questions that we asked was relative to parking. Currently, there's no parking on the Federal Street corridor, but in redesigning it, there may be an opportunity to include on-street parking. And there were mixed opinions on that. Some thought that parking would be beneficial. Others, from a traffic calming perspective, others thought that because there's no parking today, there would be no need to include additional parking. Although that might not account for some of the future development that's going to occur on Federal Street. The other concept that we heard about were roundabouts. There are mixed opinions on roundabouts. A segment of the responses were opposed to the roundabouts. Some were opposed to the roundabouts, but would be open to them if they were proper design elements to calm traffic. And then there was actually a portion that really did support the roundabouts based on the safety benefits, traffic calming benefits, And also the ability to really create a sense of place and streetscape enhancements. So here we show a proposed cross section of what a federal street corridor could look like. We're looking now as if we were standing at the Green Island Bridge, looking towards the city of Troy. So on the north side of the road, you can see a wide multi-use path that's raised that would accommodate both bicycles and pedestrians, separated by a landscape median and a parking lane. We have a travel lane and then a traversable median, and this was included so that emergency access would be comfortable with the raised median and still be able to pass vehicles as needed, while still being able to provide that pedestrian refuge for pedestrians crossing the street. Then we have similar treatment on the opposite side of the road for eastbound traffic with that traversable median and a travel lane. No parking on that side. And so now looking at it as plan view concept, you can see we have roundabouts both at the Federal Street and River Street intersection and Federal Street and 6th Avenue intersection. The traffic analysis showed that the roundabouts would work well from a traffic standpoint with 2 entering lanes, but we kept it to a single exiting lane to really improve the pedestrian benefit. We know that fewer lanes at a roundabout would be better for pedestrians. Unfortunately, the traffic analysis shows that without the 2 entering lanes, you have significant vehicle queuing, which could particularly have been a concern with the Green Island Bridge, as that is a lift bridge. And so you would want vehicles queuing onto that in case that it needs to be lifted. So with the 2 entering lanes, you're able to accommodate traffic while still providing the pedestrian benefit. The roundabout does slow traffic. It provides pedestrians the opportunity to cross in 2 stages. And then you can see on the north side, there's that multi-use path that would also accommodate bicycles. And they do come in from, a little further from the Federal Street corridor at the 5th Avenue intersection. And then there's modifications to that turnaround triangle on the north side of Federal Street. That would be removed because the roundabout would allow the U-turn movement. And in place of that U-turn movement southbound, you would be able to accommodate a nice trail crossing that would connect to the Empire State Trail. So just here's a slide that shows the benefits of the roundabouts. They are a proven safety countermeasure according to the Federal Highway Administration. They do reduce crashes and speeds, and they do provide a more suitable environment for walking and bicycling. And so, we think that the proposed concept shows, has the best benefits for all users. You can see here the pedestrian crossing distance is kind of overlaid on Federal Street. The existing signal currently is about a 70-foot crossing on the westbound approach. And if we take a look at the proposed roundabout with the 2 lanes entering and a single lane exiting, it's about 30 feet on one leg. Then you have that pedestrian refuge and 12 feet on another. So pedestrians will be much less exposed to traffic in that case.
I gotta say, on the other side, the other roundabout is even more important because you have a lot of people with wheelchairs and things like that to cross.
Yeah, absolutely. We did take a look at some of the special uses in the corridor with the Troy Housing Authority, senior centers and medical centers. One of the things that I didn't note on the concept is that there's also a pedestrian crossing now included at 5th Avenue that you can see there. It's on the west side of the intersection. And so that will provide the pedestrians the opportunity to cross where there currently is none.
I have crossed there and it is interesting.
Yeah. One of the things that the existing conditions showed is that people generally didn't like crossing at the Federal Street and River Street intersection, even though it's a signal and there's pedestrian countdown timers. Because of right turn movements or just the heavy vehicle volumes, people have said that they generally feel safer walking in and crossing mid-block on Federal Street. And this now with the median provides them that opportunity to gauge traffic in just one direction, cross a single lane, have the pedestrian refuge, and then cross again. So that 2-stage crossing should be a big benefit. Just wrapping up, here's our schedule for next steps. We have a draft report that we're in the process of updating and we'll be releasing, and we'll be going back to the public this fall. We'll show them the updated concepts and then get their input. We'll wrap that up into a final report. And then looking to get this project into design in 2023. There are already funds programmed on the tip for the city to start progressing that.
Will you be making any recommendations further on along the Green Island Bridge turns into Starbuck Island and nearby, as well as further on into Green Island itself? We've had a number of complaints and issues there.
Yep, so not as part of this study, the boundary for this study is really the Green Island Bridge. But DOT is progressing the design of the or the design for the path on the Green Island Bridge will be progressing, and that should follow, I would assume, the typical procedure that would include receiving input and presenting the plans as they get progressed.
It may be worth mentioning some things, even if there are different options, because I think people would be looking for it. There have been disputes regarding that.
Yeah, and one of the key things that we've been looking at as part of this study is the tie-in from how that path on Green Island Bridge would tie into the proposed concept here. There's some consideration of timing too. You wouldn't want to go forward with Green Island connection and then have it dump into the existing signal without having some type of accommodation. So there's some coordination that is going to have to happen with that.
Well, another thing is, it's actually a really good connection between, there's people who live in Starbucks and actually go to RBI and things like that. There's a really good tie-in for like either bicycle or whatever, when you go up that way and then go up Sage, because Sage actually goes up a canyon, so it's not quite that steep. So any kind of pedestrian and bicycle things that you can do to help people get into Sage is actually probably a good thing.
Yeah. So that's that. I'm happy to answer any other questions if anyone has any. If there's any from anyone online.
Do you want to look at the chat?
Yeah. Look at the chat.
No question for you yet.
I'll ask a question if no one else has. Jesse, did you talk to the city about the 2 bus stops that are in this segment of Federal Street? Are they okay with those stops staying there?
That's something that we are going to need to take a closer look at, and this is at the concept level now. We will need to take a look at what happens to those stops in design. In the westbound direction, there may be an opportunity where some of that parking is currently to have stops there. Because the median is wide and traversable, there may be an opportunity to have in-lane stops. So that is something that we are going to want to coordinate with CDTA in the city as we move forward.
Right. And one more question. The 5th Street crosswalk, will that be a raised crosswalk or down in the road?
I don't think there's plans to raise it, but that's certainly something that could be determined during the design phase. So, after this concept and the planning work gets done, like I said, there is design funding slated for this. And so, that could be an alternative that gets looked at.
Okay. That's it for me. Thank you.
So there's a question here that says, what exactly will the TIP funds pay for and how much money is earmarked? Off the top of my head, I don't have the answer for that. I believe the funds are strictly for design and there's no construction funding left or no construction funding scheduled yet. And then the second question is there any signalization at the crosswalk and or crossing beacons? So no, we don't think that the crosswalk would warrant a full 3-colored signal or a hawk beacon, pedestrian hybrid beacon. During design, that could be evaluated further. There may be the potential to include the flashing yellow beacons, the RRFBs. That would depend on the volumes of pedestrians crossing. We did do 2-hour pedestrian counts, both throughout the entire corridor, I guess the 3 intersections, and there were some observations. So we do have an idea of demand there. And it could warrant that beacon, but that would be kind of a further step during design. Great. Well, seeing no more questions, I'll hand it back to Jen. Thank you all for listening to our presentation, and happy to see this progress and answer any questions if you have. There might be another one that just popped up in the chat. Oh, just a thank you.
Well, thank you, Jesse. If hopefully, we'll be able to share these slides with our notes, and the project website we'll put in the notes too. So if people want to look at the draft report or and just follow the project along, you
Yeah,
can find the
absolutely.
information there. Okay, thank you, Jesse.
Thank you.
All right. So let's see if I can seamlessly switch PowerPoint presentations without breaking anything. Okay, and will people let me know what they see? Do they see the full slide or the presentation view?
Presentation.
All right. What about now?
It looks good.
Good.
Thank you. Well, it might not work the best for everyone in this room. Hold on 1 second. Okay, can you tell me again which screen you see? I apologize for that.
We're seeing the presentation the way it's supposed to be.
Okay, awesome. Goodness works for everybody. Thank you. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is an update on CDPH. There's a P missing there, cycle. Lindsay, are you on, and would you be able to give everyone an update?
Yep, I am on. I also have Steve Bratzbis with me. He's our operations manager. So we have already broken another ridership record for CDPHP Cycle's 6th season. Last week, we surpassed our previous record of 70,700 rides. At this point to date, we are closing in on 75,000 rides with the anticipation of running the bikes through the end of November. So our goal right now is to run that number as high as we can. And if we can hit 80,000, that's kind of our magic number in both mine and Steve's mind right now. So that's where we're at ridership wise. To break that down a little bit, Albany is still our biggest riding area, has the most bikes in it. And they themselves are closing in on 50,000 of those rides. So, it's kind of, Albany's always been the highest ridership, but again, like I said, it goes back to the size and the amount of bikes that are in there. Some interesting new numbers this year, though. Both Saratoga and Schenectady have broken their individual ridership records. Schenectady is more than double the amount of rides for their entire season last year at this point. They're up over, they're about 5,500 rides right now, so we're super thrilled about that. We've got some residents who have taken up riding. Some of the apartment complexes have really jumped on board the bikes this year, and helped those numbers grow in Schenectady. So that's been great. Saratoga, we had a ton of riding in the park this year, especially during the busy summer months. Our two newest areas, Manans and Watervliet, where we expanded earlier this spring, they combined have done over 1,000 rides already, which is great. And last year's expansion area, Warren County, they surpassed their ridership number from last season about a month and a half ago. So they're over 1,700 rides at this point, which we're very excited about. We added some more bikes up there this year for them, and they've really kind of taken to the program, and it's starting to grow up there, which we're happy about. Kind of a bonus expansion that we did about 2 weeks ago. We added bikes out into Montgomery County in the city of Amsterdam. CDTA expanded to Montgomery County at the end of August, brought 4 fixed route buses out there in the city. And so as a complement to that, we wanted to give the residents and the businesses out there a little taste of the cycle program. So Steve and his team built 2 racks out in Amsterdam. There's one by St. Mary's Hospital across the street from the main building on Guy Park Ave. And there's also a rack at the base of the pedestrian footbridge. And then we also have 2 bikes locked up to existing bike infrastructure by the Empire Trail behind Lorenzo's restaurant out there. So we're looking to grow that a little bit more for next season. But like I said, we wanted to give them a couple of weeks to try out the bikes, especially with the nice weather that we've been having this fall. So we are still on target to have some e-bikes for next season. We were hoping to have them in the end of this season, but like everything these days, we kind of ran into the disastrous world of the supply chain and shipping. So we weren't able to get them here in time to have Steve and his team get a chance to put them all together and get batteries and controllers into them. So we're going to hold off till next year and unleash the e-bikes for next season for 2023. So that's where we're at right now. Like I said, we're excited about breaking the ridership record. We've got close to 29,000 active members in our system now, which is great, and just continuing to grow the program.
Thanks, Lindsay. Does anyone have any questions about bike share and the cycle program? No. Okay. Thanks, Lindsay. Thanks, Steve.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
There's a question in the chat, Jen.
Oh, Lindsay, Ed asked about scooters and what the status of, what's their status?
So scooters are something that we're looking at for next year too. We kind of pulled back on the scooters this season for a number of reasons. Operational logistics. We have been really taking our time, kind of wrapping our arms around how quickly users go through the batteries, what the battery life looks like, how often they need to be swapped out, because they obviously go much quicker than the battery controllers on a regular pedal bike. So Steve and his team have been, doing a bunch of testing with that. And also, if you watch the news, you are starting to see a lot more stories about e-bike batteries, scooter batteries. So we're really taking our time with the safety component, for all of our facilities, for Steve and his team, moving these batteries around, safely charging them, safe storage and racking equipment where these batteries can be charged and taken care of properly. We've been doing a lot of work with the Albany County Regional Hazmat Team and the Albany Fire Department. Steve and his team have gone through some training exercises with those folks, gone to some county-wide meetings that we've kind of gotten them into so that they can learn as much about this process and how to properly take care of the batteries. So all of that put together, we want to make sure that we do this safely and smartly. So scooters are on the horizon for next year.
Great. And there's also someone asked if there's bike share in Cohoes.
There sure is. Yep. Yeah, we have multiple stations set up around the city. they've been in the system since the second season of Cycle. So we work closely with Joe Graves over there, the city planner, building that program with them, increasing ridership.
Thanks.
Yep.
Sorry, another question. Is there bike share in Mechanicville?
Not at this time. We get contacted. We've been contacted a couple times this season about Mechanicville. I know they like the trail idea out there. It's on our radar screen. I don't know if it's something for next season. We do have the Flex program up there, so there are CDTA services running in Mechanicville. But for right now, there is not bike share at this time.
And Ed asks if there are any thoughts about providing or renting out helmets.
So the issue with that is we can't, the way that the laws are written, we can't necessarily enforce helmets. And so the idea of providing them, we're not quite sure how we would be able to do that and sustain that program without them kind of becoming people's own personal property. Obviously, we encourage helmets. Every time that we go to a community event, we talk about helmets. We do helmet giveaways at certain events. But as far as providing helmets for the entire program, it's something that I think logistically, we need to sit down and put together a pretty intensive plan on how that could go down, and how, like I said, we can ensure that they stay with the bikes and with the program and not disappear on us.
We have given away probably 20,000 helmets.
Yeah, I mean, in the entirety of the cycle program, between various giveaways and when we do community events and that kind of thing, we've given out probably 2,000, 2,500 helmets to date. We order helmets every year for these programs that we go to. When we run the Capitol Walls mural tour with Albany Center Gallery, everybody who signs up for that gets a goodie bag, and in that goodie bag is a helmet. So that's, so we're getting helmets out there, but to supply them for every single rider on every bike is still something that is a tricky prospect for us.
For whatever it's worth, I remember discussions without a solution in the New York City area when they were implementing their bike share programs. So it was not solved.
Yeah. I mean, we've had conversations with different organizations, other bike share systems on this topic. There's the idea about fold up cardboard helmets, that are a little more cost effective to order in quantities, but I think safety is the big component with it. So and enforcement also. If we're going to provide them, we would want to make sure that people are actually going to use them, but we can't tell them that they have to use them. So it's a lot of components to the idea overall. Like I said, obviously we promote helmets, we promote safe, smart riding, following the rules of the road. And we're that's kind of where we're at with that topic.
How about partnerships maybe with stores near your hottest areas or whatever, where they might sell actually helmets for people to buy helmets and something like that, to have helmet availability?
Well, I mean, we do have a number of racks near the down tube, as well as some of the other bike shops. And we find bikes at Walmart on a regular basis, but I'm not sure if they're buying helmets there. But it is an interesting idea to partner up with some people who could sell helmets or maybe would want to add that to their inventory. But unfortunately, the lack of local bike shops and then the locations of big box stores in less than desirable riding areas put us in a bit of a conundrum. But again, CDTA does not only give helmets away at events that CDTA is directly related to, but they also often provide helmets for other opportunities for giveaways, whether it's with police departments or various bike rodeos put on by other organizations. So there is a lot of effort from multiple agencies and authorities to infuse more helmets into the world. But I as an operations guy, like the idea of maybe trying to partner up with some local stores. We just make sure that it's the stores where their helmets are part of their repertoire, as opposed to hoping that the coffee shop on Broadway will start selling bike helmets. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm thinking like Stewart's, whatever, they're like all over the place, so I don't know how many Stewart's are like near some of your hot areas and things like that. But something like that, and I mean, it would only just be added to stores where they'd be close to, you know, one of your racks or something like that, so.
Yeah, I think maybe partnering with a group like that to work on them supporting a giveaway at their stores. But I don't know if Stewart's would. I mean, you are correct. Stewart's sells everything, so you know. But I don't know if. I mean, again, it's funny. I have some insight into Stewart's and some of their buyers. I do know them socially, so next time I get together with them, I'm going to throw that out there and see if they want to put some bike helmets next to the road flares and see if they can move some.
Yeah, and Ed mentioned someone needs to invent helmet bending machines. So you know that there's an idea. And
We've
Charles
seen them.
mentioned,
Yeah, we have seen them. You mostly see some of those cardboard helmet ideas that we had mentioned before, but they do exist.
and Charles from the Department of Health said Safe Kids Coalition is another potential source of helmet donations. This is generating a lot of discussion. And John Mitchell, I think this is pointed at you, Steve, said ask Stewart's about bike racks too.
Yeah,
I
I
mean, I think
every
it's also
sport have a bike rack.
yeah, I think it's also worth mentioning that, you know, Bike Share has an excellent safety record. And CDPHP Cycle has done a really, I think, a good job at promoting safety. I know, like, as a user, there's reminders and prompts about safety. On the bike, there's been prompts about safety. So I think that's also important to point out.
You, I don't know, like when you sign up or when the new season starts, like offer a coupon for a local, you know, bike store for a helmet or something.
Just
Yeah, that's an idea. Maybe part of our early bird special pricing that we always do at the start of a new season.
Or if you're getting near a store that sells helmet, and do you have a helmet? There's a helmet store up ahead, whatever, you know.
Yeah. So I think we gave Lindsay and Steve lots of ideas. Thank you, Lindsay and Steve. And we'll definitely, you know, hopefully check in again, you know, as CDPHP cycle continues.
Sounds great. Thank you for the opportunity.
So the next agenda item is something that I know, like, we talked about for a long time, a while ago, and then we didn't really make a lot of progress, and we've recently completed the Complete Streets Guidebook. This was a completely in-house CDTC project. It was a recommendation in New Visions 2040, which was released in 2015, which seems like forever ago. And the Complete Streets Advisory Committee was part of its initial development and shaping of what it would be. It is basically a compilation of existing design guides and really lays out, like, based on capital region street typologies, design alternatives that communities should consider as they are planning and designing streets. So there are references to FHWA, AASHTO, ITE, and NACTO guides throughout. There are several sections. Obviously, an introduction to what Complete Streets is and their benefits, an overview of process planning and design, which many people know that this is really an important piece, is how do you integrate Complete Streets into your process, into the design and implementation of projects, whether you're a local municipality or state agency or other organization. There's different examples of street typologies, and really emphasizing that complete streets doesn't look the same everywhere. It depends on the context, it depends on surrounding land uses, it depends on the traffic trends and, you know, whether it's a freight route, a truck route, or whether it's on a transit route. And then the toolbox has chapters on sidewalks, roadways, intersections, and curbsides. So the design guide right now, we will link to it in the meeting notes. It is on the CDTC website. We are planning to print a limited number of copies, and we'll be distributing them first to members and municipalities, and then making it available on a limited basis by request. But because design standards change and are updated so frequently, we don't want to do a huge print and distribute them. We want to be able to be flexible and adapt as the guidance changes. So Charles, if you can unmute.
Yes, I had a question or a companion activity, and we can talk offline. Is there any thought from CDTC of taking a snapshot of where different municipalities throughout the region are in terms of complete streets? You know, from no thought at all to consideration to, you know, policy adoption to implementation. I hate creating more work, but I think, you know, some snapshot like that may be able to identify opportunities to move municipalities along the continuum.
So we currently have a list of municipalities that have adopted complete streets legislation that we do update, and we do plan on offering complete streets workshops again. So, you know, based on who has requested a workshop or who is interested in workshops, we do, you know, have an idea, and we're definitely willing to work with other organizations and agencies that are looking for opportunities to assist communities. But so, and that's where we are right now. But Charles, and you know, we can definitely talk about, you know, how it kind of fits into the Department of Health's goals and the work that you guys are doing, and how we can help provide some information there.
Thank you.
So the next agenda item is trail planning in the region. So I wanted to just kind of share some information about the trail count program. We've been installing automated counters at trailheads throughout the region. There's some interesting data. Now, this is based on automated count data and then extrapolated using the National Bicycle and Pedestrian Documentation Project methodology. We haven't verified numbers, and these counts, all the counters only detect body heat, so they can't differentiate like a bicycle from a pedestrian or a rollerblader or someone who's pushing a stroller. And there can be some mistakes. So we get automatic downloads of the data, but then I can also download it and look through it and look for maybe some weird things, like if at 2 a.m. there's 1,000 users, usually it might be an animal or a bug stuck in a counter or some other, just who knows what's going on. Or, you know, if you see like 30 people, if it's a closed end kind of a system and 30 people go in and only 2 people come out, there's like something. I don't think there's, you know, a bunch of people lost in there, but I think that, like, you know, someone was maybe like just hanging out near the counter. So again, there's some, they're not perfect, but we've recently collected data on the Albany County Rail Trail on the Champlain Canal Trail, the South End Bikeway, the Rexford Bridge, and the Albany Skyway. So we've seen some interesting stuff on the Skyway. I'm really hesitant to say like there's 1.7 million users on the Skyway. That was our total regional trail use estimate in 2016. We have seen trail use like increase like double and triple since then on some trails, but that is something that could be verified, although I have additional information that maybe some people may be interested in. So I did take that Skyway data out and show the other 4 trails for comparison, because the Skyway numbers look like they really skew the others into seeming small, but these are all really strong use numbers, especially when you compare them to the 2006 and 2016 numbers, which, as you can see, are between 20,000 and nearly 300,000 on at the most popular trailheads. And again, for the Skyway, very interested in verifying this, maybe having someone do a 2-hour in-person manual count to verify this, but there are clear patterns that, the Skyway, people coming into downtown, it's pretty steady from 7 a.m. through 9 a.m. and then around lunchtime, again, it picks up. We should remember that the pedestrian bridge over 787 is just a little ways down Broadway. So it does look like, because of the unevenness of the which way people are going, it seems like people are doing like a loop, probably at lunchtime, as compared to in the morning. I think people park somewhere and then use the trail and the Skyway to come into downtown. Because as you can see, there's not a lot of traffic to the waterfront in the morning. It's mostly coming to downtown. So I think it's, and it's people using the trail to come downtown to work. And then in the afternoon and through late afternoon, I think it's particularly around lunchtime, I'm assuming it's people walking a loop. But again, these are really high numbers and they're worth verifying.
Can we try to capture like the other side of that loop, like put the other counter in and try to?
Yeah, so one thought I had was also putting one on the pedestrian bridge to see, if it's uneven over there, and then putting one down by there. The thing is that these figures go up until daylight savings, and I'm wondering like how daylight savings will impact this, if at all. If it's commuting, then it shouldn't affect it at all, but or at least much. But we'll see. And then the weekend, also some clear trends too. It's, I think, which is, this is pretty common on all the trails throughout the region, is kind of peak is from 2 to 4 p.m. So it's showing a lot of like common trends with other trails in the region, but the numbers are just kind of high that I'm just want to caution before we take these numbers as gospel here. So John asked, how do you distinguish direction of travel? So the sensor can detect which way people are moving. When I install it, I walk one way and then walk the other, and I say which way it's going, so then it can detect motion in each direction. And again, why I don't think it's completely bad data is that this is a time of day heat map, and as you can see, there's some clear trends as to when there's activity on the Skyway. So we're going to continue to monitor it as it gets really cold. We may not be deploying counters for new counts, but we would like to continue again in the spring. do counts again in all of the locations we did in 2016. Wherever we can, we like to do some before and after, especially new facilities where we'd like to get counters on to get a baseline, to get baseline data. Peter asked, where's the sensor for the south end connector located? So these are temporary counters, and the south end connector was located near Church Street in Albany. So we try to put them close to access points to the trails, but not at a point where people might just be like hanging out, waiting for friends or to use a trail or taking a rest. So we do try to put them in a location where it's just getting people that are walking by as best that we can. And we've been really trying to make them not as obvious, and we've added some extra steel cables and locks to them and put stickers so that people know that it's CDTC that is installing them and collecting data, so that we don't experience any more theft or issues with them. So if you have a project or a facility that you'd like some data on and you're thinking about for the spring, please let me know and we can work out a schedule. They are not great for shared types of environments, really the separated paths where it can only be, it's only recording the trail traffic or shared use path traffic. The counters say that they can handle mixed traffic, but we tried on the Rexford Bridge to install it on one side just because it was easier to install and it was picking up vehicle traffic. So we like the separated paths the best for these counters. Some updates on statewide planning. I would love to get OPRHP or Parks and Trails to a meeting soon to kind of give us an overview of what's going on. As many of you know, the Empire State Trail planning has moved to OPRHP, and Parks and Trails New York is working with them to develop an annual progress report. So they are collecting information on trail projects. I'll provide a link to the form that they have been sending out. If you are a community that's working on a trail project, they are trying to keep track and compile all of these projects and report on them on an annual basis. Parks and Trails is also working with OPRHP to develop a Greenway Trails Development Guide. So there's, the Empire State Trail obviously was completed, but there's still a lot of work that's ongoing for the statewide trail network. And then as you may have remembered, when we did our regional trail perspectives and then the Capital District Trails Plan, we created a project website because at the time the CDTC website was under construction. We've since then done implementation types of plans, feasibility studies, and we wanted to move all of our trail planning information back to the CDTC website instead of having a separate website. So I just want to show folks. Can you see the internet browser?
Yes.
Thanks. So if you go to the CDTC homepage and you go to what we do, active transportation, on the right-hand side, we have several links to different planning programs and resources. If you go to trail planning, this will be the web page for now until our website is probably redesigned again. That has all of our trail planning information. So we've kept the trail user estimates map from the 2006 counts. And then there are various drop-down menus with planning resources, trail data, counts and surveys from previous projects, implementation plans. The recently completed Patron Creek Greenway feasibility study is uploaded there. And then mapping resources, and we'll continue to keep this updated and with new information and data as we can. Can you see my slides again?
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay. So there's obviously a lot of CDTC stuff going on. We are soliciting for the 2023-24 Unified Planning Work Program. We're making up to $1 million available in funding assistance to cities, towns, villages, counties, and CDTC member organizations. There was a pre-application workshop, and the slides from that have been added to the CDC website. You can request a pre-application meeting to talk about a project idea or to ask questions about the application. All proposals must be completed and submitted no later than 5 p.m. on Wednesday, November 30th. And there are different project categories with different match requirements. So please take a look at the guidance document. It really outlines everything that you need to know. But if you still have questions, do not hesitate to contact us. An update on Capital Coexist. There is still some funding available, but these projects need to be completed by the end of the year. Related, we have released a solicitation for the next round of bicycle safety training grants. Rima, do you want to update on this or?
Yeah, so we're offering a grant program for bicycle safety trainings for. There's 2 different types of bicycle safety trainings that we offer. You can do one for youth ages 5 to 11, basically a bike rodeo that would be sort of overseen by a lead cyclist instructor. Or you could do organize a training for adults ages 14 and up. So we're looking for hosts to apply to step up and organize trainings, and we'll provide the LCI instructor. And if you wanted to do one for adults, then we would pay for lunch. And if you were to do the one for and course materials, and if you were to do the one for kids, then we would, provide support like giveaways and some funding for safety gear like helmets and a couple bucks for refreshments, and help you get, if you need assistance finding bikes to borrow or other things like that, then we'd help you put an event together. And applications for that are also due on November 30th.
Yes. And all the information about that program and the application is on the Capital Coexist webpage. Just a reminder that the technical assistance program is also still open. This is a joint planning program with CDTC and CDRPC. We continue to update the bipartisan infrastructure law webpage as new information is released. So I know we've been getting some questions about programs, and we are trying to keep on top of these and track opportunities and find opportunities where the region can participate or compete for funding. We were recently at the National MPO conference, and they did have the Federal Highways Build America Bureau there, and there were a lot of questions from MPOs to them about, the frequent, how quickly they're releasing information and how close together all the deadlines are. And it's definitely noted that this has been a really complicated law to navigate for everyone. And so we are happy to help if you have questions or are trying to apply for funds. The next New Visions Virtual Learning Series webinar is scheduled for next Tuesday, and it will be on infrastructure planning. We're also in the middle of developing an RFP and scope for the MTP update, which we expect to begin next year. And then finally, we have the status of CDTC planning initiatives. This will go out with the notes. I don't expect everyone to be able to read this, or I'm not going to go through all of them. We heard about the Troy Federal Street Corridor study today. There are some linkage studies that are just starting, including the Town of Brunswick Hoosick Road Corridor Study, Sand Creek Road Complete Street Feasibility Study, the Albany and Crane Streets Linkage Study in Schenectady. And there are also, there's also a technical assistance program project in Saratoga Springs, reconnecting the west side, which will look at potential bike and ped connection routes there in Saratoga. That's just getting started. So details on all of our ongoing initiatives are in the table. And as always, we will attach it to the notes and are available to answer any questions about them. So with that, we do have a little bit of time left. So if anyone wants to give an update on planning activities that they're working on, or update folks on any news from your organization, please feel free to do that. You can unmute or put it in the chat, I think, or if you're in the room, Ivan.
I'm very sad to announce that our staff member Keith Pickett, who was working on the GCSC grants on bicycle safety, had very unexpectedly and very quickly died of a cancer item, just in his 50s. So we are looking for a new staff member for this part-time employment. And we have a announcement that we've sent to Jen, and I have one in case somebody wants to be in touch with us. I'll mail it to them. Second item that I have, which is an interesting aside, we had heard from Greg Franchisi last week about the Hoboken project. To my great surprise, in the back of Roads and Bridges, but the back page usually is the page you look at for something interesting. And they have that project covered and very positively covered. I'll give away my copy to, again, Jen here. And it shows there is national recognition for these types of programs. I heard it here first.
That's great. Look at that. Cool. Thanks, Ivan.
Thank you, and please let me know if anybody knows of somebody who's looking for employment with MBC.
Charles?
Yes, I just wanted to apprise people that the Albany County Department of Health recently received a one-year planning grant from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention to address social determinants of health. And one of the focal points of our planning efforts will be the built infrastructure. So certainly we look to integrate and that planning work with CDTC's plans and the perspectives of this group. The grant commenced on September 1st, 2022, and continues through August 31st of 2023.
Thanks, Charles. Any other? Okay, sorry, there's an update from Ed in the chat. By the end of the week, Albany Bicycling Coalition and our partners will announce a vigil for Just Streets as part of November 20th Global Day of Remembrance for Victims of Traffic Crashes. Thanks, Ed. If there's like a link to details on that and you want to share it, we can drop that in the notes too.
Yeah, we'll have a link when we have a date. It's either going to be on the 20th or on the Friday, the 18th. We'll just keep going back and forth about it, but we're going to decide by Wednesday and post that on our website.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other updates? Okay. If that is all, we will meet again December 13th. Same time, same location. Thank you for joining us today, and we will send out notes and a summary of today's meeting within the next few days. So thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you.